Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of AZ Update. Hope everybody is doing well. Today joined by a special co-host and better half of Patch and Switch, Joey Snow. Joey, how's it going?
Hey, good, Anthony. But, you know, I was thinking we could do something a little more international with the naming for this week's show. I think we could call it AZ Update because, you know, you've got the you've got the United Statesian here. Can we do that? Can we branch out? Can we be a little bit more inclusive of us down here?
We're all about being inclusive. So AZ, it's hard for me to even say it. AZ Update.
AZ Update. That's right. We're changing the name just for right now.
Just for right now. You know, that's you know, and that's the thing. Being all inclusive is great. You know, having an international audience is great. Having you on the show is great. This is awesome to have you on here. Really quickly. Xbox Series X launched this week.
Yes.
Are you able to get your hands on one?
No, because here's the fun thing, the pre-sale. You know when the pre-sale started? It started right as our shift for the live stream of Microsoft Ignite started. So I think we went on somewhere around 7 a.m. Pacific time, and I believe that the pre-sale started about 8 a.m. So we were right in the middle of our shift, Rick and I. So I get no Xbox and I'll like it.
So we had a huge latency for some reason connecting to the store to gain access to the Xbox Series X. I know producer Pierre ventured out to the local electronics store to try to gain access to one, and you know, there are the pre-orders that have to be fulfilled first, but there's the hope that, you know, somebody reneges on their pre-order or that, you know, can't unfortunately take it anymore. And so, you know, producer Pierre would capitalize on that, but no dice. Like they all went out and producer Pierre, I don't know if you're able to talk. How long did you wait at the electronics store to gain access to one?
It wasn't that long. I wasn't at the store very long, but maybe an hour. Ish, and then somebody came out and went through the line and said, "Are you here for the Xbox? Are you here for the Xbox? Are you here for the Xbox?" And everybody said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, we have none in store. It's an online only experience." So everybody in the line kind of just went back to their cars and went away.
So
that's a bummer.
The big question then: Xbox Series X or Xbox Series S? And you're going to go for X. Well, it is both, but if you have to choose one, so let's say the Xbox Series S comes back into inventory before the X does. Would you wait for the X?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first one's going to be the X, and then so what it is that there's a rolling upgrade program currently in my house in terms of devices, right? So the original Xbox 360 is now in one room because it's actually still used. They still use it. There's a Minecraft experience on the old one that they want to keep anyway.
Cool.
So that's in one room, and then the first version of the Xbox One is up in the game room, and then the Xbox, the nice version, the with the larger storage, so that I can play one game. Let's be clear, one game takes up the entire storage of the Xbox. We won't talk about that. Activision. Anyway, that's downstairs. So what will happen is the rolling upgrade program will move the larger one upstairs. The 360 will finally leave, I hope. And then, we'll just kind of swap out there. And then once the S comes out, the S will replace the one upstairs. So yeah, that's the plan. Rolling upgrades.
I wait for the swap program to come out. I had 2 units of each. So I have 2 Xbox One Series S machines. One is in the box, sealed. It was in use. It's now being stored until some electronic stores here in Canada will have the trade-in program, and so you can then trade it in for the new. Obviously, you have to wait for the new inventory to come out, which is not available yet. So I'm waiting for that to occur first, and then do the swap out. I do have, you know, a storage of units that I've taken out from time to time. I still have my old ColecoVision and Atari 2600 that, you know, when my kids say, hey, you know, Dad, you know, what's gaming back then? And I'll show them, and you see the stick figure with the hockey stick coming down the ice. I'm like, that was video gaming? Yep, in the 80s, that was video games.
Yeah, 100%.
My
so
wife
I still have those as well.
My wife says before you get the Series X, maybe you should sell yours. She says it's barely used. You should just get good money for it. And I'm like, it says right on the controller, Day 1 Edition, 2013.
That's the
He
one
will not be swapping that out.
new.
That's the unit I have sealed, yeah, and I'm not swapping that one in for sure. That's a collector's item, right? But there's also the question about PC gaming on the rise, especially in regards to the pandemic that we're experiencing right. It's been a great source for me in terms of stress relief to have the ability to play with you guys. And, you know, those in the audience too, we've had a couple games with those in the audience. And good morning to you, Andrew and Paul, that's on the chat right now. And if you're not on the chat, check us out on YouTube and you can participate in the chat as well. PC gaming is on the rise because it's that capability to have cross-platform play. Playing against, you know, people using other consoles as well as the Xbox and as well as the PC. You've been dabbling in that as well. I know you're a big Diablo fan.
I am. I've been I've been playing Diablo. I've been playing it on the Switch with travel. And given that we haven't done that in, what are we now, 10 months? Yeah. Since my last trip was I arrived home on January the 15th, my trip from New York City, and that was the last trip I took. So yeah, we're 10 months since that trip. So I made the jump over to the PC side and have definitely been playing a little bit of Diablo 3. Season 22 starts next Friday. So that'll be fun. Obviously, Diablo 4 coming, and then a little bit of Fall Guys, of course, and you know we might even dabble in a little Among Us coming soon. That's come to the other show that we do later. We'll talk about that. But
we'll definitely talk about the show.
It's fun. It is a good way to just kind of disconnect, even though you're connected, and then making sure that you stay, you know, kind of connected with friends, right? So with the group of folks that we get to play with online, and then obviously our communities, right? Being able to play with our communities. Yeah.
And it's the thing, in the chat, we're seeing a lot of discussion about Halo. The new version of Halo that's coming out on the Xbox Series X that people are interested in playing. Can't wait for the new Gears to come out. You know, both of us are big gearheads. We enjoy playing Gears of War. Looking for that.
Dude, the chainsaw finish.
Oh, I know. You know, we were talking about this. My first instance in gaming was Mortal Kombat, but I think, you know, it takes up a notch in terms of you're actually doing it with an actual, you know, configuration on the joystick to do the finishing move on somebody with the chainsaw, which is really cool. Let's get started with the news because there's lots to talk about today. We've been out for 2 weeks due to all the activities that were happening last week. So we'll get started right away with the news. And the first news item is the new ability for Azure Migrate to now harness the power of PowerShell to do a lot of automation of your migration from your on-premises implementations to the cloud. So the example I'm actually showcasing here is the ability to migrate VMware VMs agentlessly with the use of PowerShell to automate the migration over. This means you have the ability to have a full understanding of the VM that you're looking to migrate. You can start replicating. This can all be done through commandlets. So you can actually run this script, let it run, instead of going through all the steps with the GUI. Having the ability to do this via PowerShell makes for that automation sequence to be that much smoother, that much quicker. And yes, there is, you know, a lot of people that are adverse to using PowerShell because, you know, there's worry in terms of the scripting and what have you. I, you know, myself, over the last couple of months, since we've been in quarantine, have been dabbling a lot in PowerShell and in Python to just understand and learn how to capitalize on this capability, especially from the perspective of making things quicker. When we're building our labs and when we're building our step-by-step articles, you know, we require to build out our infrastructure, build out our templates, and utilization of PowerShell has been that much easier for us to spin up these instances really quickly and then turn them down when we're done as well. So it's awesome to see now that we're seeing this functionality in a migration process. And again, this is not to say you're going to migrate your entire on-premises implementation to the cloud, but even if you're in the aspect of just doing tests and deploying or migrating your instances to, let's say, a dev area for testing in terms of that migration, definitely something you would want to check out and just to see for those automation roles, how that would come into play for the organization that you support. Joey,
Gregory in chat. Yeah, Gregory in chat, this is cool. I wasn't aware of this. He says Azure Migrate is version 0.10. It's the only module in Azure which is below 1.0.0. I had no idea.
Yes. Well, it's the thing.
But it's officially GA, right? It is officially GA, not preview. Okay.
It is completely GA. It was just made generally available within the last 2 weeks. So it's something it's brand new. And we stress this a lot on the show. Provide your feedback. Test out the new functionality. Even though it's gone GA, you still have the ability to put forth suggestions on how to make it better or how to address specific aspects of the offering to custom tailor to what you need, or if it's a theme that people are talking about in terms of the implementation of the solution, make it known so that others can take advantage. It betters the offering itself, right? And that's why it's awesome that we're seeing this inside of the chat room. Individuals on the show and individuals that watch Patch and Switch as well have gone out and shared their insights and their updates and provided that feedback back to us to say, yep, I've already connected out with these teams. Can you even follow up and see what's going on with that? And we've done that in some aspects as well. So the fact that it's in version 1 now and is generally available. Again, thank you to all that have provided their feedback when it is in public preview. And some of them, some people that are watching are also invited to the private preview as well. That participation is key for the success of the solutions that are being offered.
Yeah, I love the fact that this is scripted. You can get it to the point where you're able to make those migrations occur in a more programmatic way, right? I mean, the more that you can have things that are you remove a lot of the variables, you can script it up, obviously test those scripts, test the migration, and then you actually can go and do those implementations. That's super cool technology here. It just seems like every couple of months there's something new. And really making that kind of hybrid capability just even a little bit better and moving things back and forth. Super cool technology.
Next up, Joey, you're going to talk about managing user authentication.
I am?
You are?
Nobody told me I had to talk about real things. I thought I was just here for the Xbox chat. What's even happening right now?
This is AzUpdate. Not Patch and Switch, but
that's right. Okay, yes, that's right. AZ. So if you haven't had a chance yet, highly recommend you go check out Alex Simons' blog. This week he brings in Alex Weiner for, I believe, the second week in a row. Love Alex Weiner. He's a great colleague of mine. And this time we're talking about it's kind of an extension on the theories that started with your password doesn't matter, and then all creds belong to us. And this is, again, it's about moving to passwordless because passwords just are horrible. And I know it looks like my camera's finally hung up here. Hang on one quick second, and we'll get you set up.
Hey, this is the live stream. This is we experience these challenges from time to time.
It happens.
It happens.
It
right?
happens. It does. It happens. So anyway, we're talking about making the move to passwordless and killing passwords. So the first step that you really have to do, and anybody that you talk to from the identity side, and I sit in the identity engineering team, is we're always like, look, MFA is essential. Right? When you're talking about MFA, just turn on MFA, because if there's anything you can do that's just the smallest step that's going to protect you is enabling MFA. Once you've enabled MFA, you need to talk about, well, what MFA method do I want to use? It's not about should I use it. You should, absolutely. But it's about which method. And so the methods that we have is you've got the ability to use a text message, you've got the ability to call, and you've got the app. Right? And in this blog post, Alex goes into the detail as to when you should not use, why we should start retiring things that are reliant upon PSTN. And that would be text messages, and that would also be phone calls. First, it's the PSTNs, they're pretty much open to about every attack vector possible. Phishing, social account takeovers, device takeover, they're vulnerable to those types of attacks. But more importantly, think about PSTN and how long it's been around. And there's been no encryption on PSTN, right? So many devices are reliant upon the PSTN network that you can't change the format of messages. You can't add those extra layers of complexity, make the messages richer or longer. It's literally just short little text messages. And when they created SMS and voice protocols, they did it without any encryption, right? So you start looking at this, all these different things, you're using this old technology to enhance the security of your existing technology. So now you need to look at, well, listen, when I send an SMS message, particularly an MFA challenge through SMS, it's essentially, I'm just throwing it out into the ether. I don't know if that has actually been received, if it's timed out, if somebody's actually done anything with it, right? It just kind of throws it out there, and then if you authenticate, boom, you come in. That's what's different about the application, right? So when you use something like the Microsoft Authenticator application, you have the ability to have this two-way conversation, right? You have the ability to say, hey, look, let's make sure that this is more secure. And we're making changes to the Authenticator application all the time. We understand that there, a lot of folks are asking, and they've even done so in the comments of Alex's blog post here, about the ability to give us more information about the authentication requests coming in. What app did it come from, or where is it coming from? And we can start working on those type of additions, but you don't have that ability with good old-fashioned PSTN and the SMS and the phone calls.
Right.
So it's just looking at how do you take authentication, and particularly multi-factor authentication methods, to the next level. And you can use an app, or you could use something like, oh, here they are. You can use something like your good old your FIDO keys that I have here.
I was going to ask you, and that's the thing. That's still something that's utilized today. Like, so Reese McDonald in the chat brings up a good point. The whole password thing is a hacker's guessing game, right? They have a list of passwords that are most frequently used, and
we're going to talk about that later too.
Yes, yes, right.
Spoiler alert.
So producer Pierre is warning us that we're halfway through the show, and we're definitely going to get to that. So what Reese brings up in the chat room, that passwords become a hacker's guessing game, and having these additional tokens through MFA like iris scan, fingerprint scan, or even the FIDO tokens that you've showed, hugely important to ensure, especially in this day and age of all of us working from home, that we can identify and we can verify our identification when authenticating to gain access to the information that matters to our organizations most. Let's continue on. Next up is the new instances or new checks for Azure Advisor, now made available into GA as well. With all of us, as mentioned, working from home, there's a lot of changes in terms of the way that cloud is being utilized. Something like Windows Virtual Desktop and its use is now changed. It's actually used a lot more because everybody is working from home. Some organizations require that instance that you do not have direct access on your machine in your house to information, and so that's where Windows Virtual Desktop will come into play. Azure Advisor now has the capability to govern over, or to recommend the use, the setup of use for Windows Virtual Desktop, specifically for this use of everybody using these machines from home, and to adjust or to provide the recommendations to administrators how to better fit the solution on behalf of the organization to reduce latency, to increase access, and to reduce costs in some instances as well. The other aspect to what's being added to Azure Advisor is now the ability for an improved experience maintaining a connected machine agent directly through. So Azure Arc, for those who are unaware, the ability to manage and govern over Azure, your on-premises implementation, and other clouds as well, because we understand that not all your eggs are in one basket, and you have that requirement to manage multiple instances and multiple services. Azure Arc being that overlaying one pane of glass to manage all your implementations. This too can now report back to Azure Advisor in terms of your services and what you're accomplishing based on Azure services only. It does not take in consideration other platforms, so don't worry about, in terms of security concern. It only recommends based on what's connected to Azure Arc for Azure services, best course of action for deployment, access of information, and what have you. To go back to the other conversation that we're having, Joey, did you want to talk about the advancing password spray attack detection?
Yeah, so this is super cool. So you were talking about passwords and protecting passwords. So number one, we're going to get rid of passwords, right? I mean, I think I've kind of made that clear. The passwordless is the future. That's where we need to go. And that journey kind of starts with that MFA and which kind of method are you using. And when you move to that authenticator experience, you can go passwordless. But in the meantime, we understand that there's passwords that still need to be there. So we need to talk a little bit about password spray. Hopefully everybody understands what a password spray attack is. This is not the same thing where you basically go and you find an account and you hammer a whole bunch of passwords against that account. It's actually the opposite. You find a password and then you spray that password across a multitude of accounts. And we did it. We have a pretty cool little algorithm that we had before, which was pretty good about detecting password spray. However, you really can't see the true effect of a password spray account until you have visibility across multiple tenants. And so what we've done inside the Azure Active Directory team is that we've actually created a net new machine learning algorithm that actually looks across tenants and can really help better understand when a password spray attack is happening. And so we alert through, if you've got Azure Active Directory Premium 2, EMS E5, you can use identity protection, and you should be using identity protection. And when you use identity protection, when we alert based on this new algorithm that we have for password spray, we've got about 98% precision in this. So when you get an alert, you can be pretty darn sure that, yes, there is an actual password spray attack against an account, and we need to take action upon that. And that's where using risk-based conditional access, right? Again, it's a Premium 2 feature, but it's where we can actually say, hey, look, based on identity protection, we see that an account may have been fallen victim to a password spray. Let's go ahead and prompt that user for an MFA challenge and get them to reset their password. So this is just really cool. It's taking all the information that we have access to, 70, 80 terabytes of information a day coming in that we're reviewing and we're evaluating. And it's just taking it to the next level to better protect users inside of Azure Active Directory.
And what I love about this is the whole ability that you're taking an opportunity or a situation and addressing it with artificial intelligence to have that capability to understand that the password spray is occurring. You know, a lot of organizations that I've talked to in terms of adoption of services, you know, they look at, if I take artificial intelligence and rub it on my product, is it going to make it better or is it going to save me money? I love the fact that, you know, the team at Microsoft have gone forth and said, here's the opportunity that we have in front of us in terms of understanding when a password spray attack is going to occur, incorporating the algorithm that specifically does that detection and notification. Is there an opportunity to, let's say, connect this into Azure Sentinels for an automated response when this occurs?
Of course, yeah. So automated response, the best thing you're going to do is, if you're running at P2, you're going to have that risk-based conditional access, so it's immediate. But you can absolutely connect this and wire it into Sentinel. You'll actually see at the bottom of the blog post, I believe that maybe it's, I think it's in this blog post, but it may actually be in the Twitter sphere that somebody's actually wired it up and already started feeding Sentinel the information. So yeah, it's super cool. It's just really interesting because when you look at a password spray attack, when you're looking at the tenant level, if I was just looking, say, Anthony, in your tenant, it's really, really hard to detect it because it's like 1 or 2 attempts and then it goes away. 1 or 2 attempts and then it goes away. And you can't really even map it to a single IP address, right? Because it's, you know how they take over. You get multiple IP addresses, they're changing all the time because they're trying to hide. But what's interesting is when you scale that, and there's a really cool graph in the blog post, when you scale it across multiple tenants, you can actually see these peaks of when they occur. So being able to build that ML around it and then take action on it. This again, the more you can automate, the more you can get out of having to deal with these risks, particularly with security. If you can automate having a user MFA challenged and then reset their password and respond without having an account lockout, without having to have an IT admin deal with something, just go ahead and have the user remediate immediately and then notify the security team so they can go back and do any checking if necessary.
Oh, no, that's huge. Let's continue on. So next up, we go through the events that are happening of the week. We did want to call out this last week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to. I love the fact that we have Azure user groups around the world, now online, sharing what's going on amidst their user groups. Sarah Lean was on 2 weeks ago with the Portugal Azure user group, participating in a session on architecture of your infrastructure on a hybrid consideration. The next one coming up for the Azure user group in Portugal is all about container soup with Peter de Tender, which is another friend of ours that'll be presenting in terms of the best practices for container utilization in Azure. Go out there, have a look at all the events that are out there from the specific user groups. You know, the one advantage that I had and that you had was we were able to travel around the world and talk to these individuals directly, participate in these user groups. Now that everything has gone online and the user groups have done so as well, if you have the opportunity to go check out another country's user group, just to see the ideas and in what they share and how they adopt services, it's so interesting to learn from other regions around the world and how they do things. Like it's so beneficial to do so. That's why we love highlighting this on the show. And when the Portugal user group brought this to our attention, we said, yeah, we'd love to share this out because we want to invite everybody else to other regions to start having that open conversation on how services are working and how they're adopted in other countries. The other event that we also like to make note of is Patch and Switch. It is a fortnight, so Patch and Switch is going to be on today as well. And Joey, thank you again for coming on the show today. I know this is really early for you, and then you have to deal with Rick and producer Steve later on. So we appreciate that. If you want to check out Patch and Switch, it's twitchtv.com/Patch and Switch, and that'll be up today in time zones is hard. So an hour and a half. For us, it's noon in Eastern time zone. And for Joey and Rick, it's 9 a.m. I believe Pacific.
9 a.m. Pacific. Yep. Twitch.tv/Patch and Switch. And today, special guests that you're going to want to tune in. It's going to be a good time.
And last but not least, we have the Microsoft Learn module of the week, and that's Pierre's domain. Pierre, where are you at? Okay. I have it on my screen if you want me to share it. Oh, it wasn't me. I love technology. It's so awesome. It's all good. We're not professionals here. We're just passionate about sharing what we know. So take it away, Pierre. I love the fact that he was chiming in our ear. 2 minutes, and now we're in this situation. It's on IT Ops Talk. Just So we got 1 minute left. This has been an awesome show. I can't remember how much fun I've had on the show before. This was really good, Joey. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, you can catch me on Twitter. I'm at Joey Snow. Best place to find me. And then, of course, at Patch and Switch on all social media except for TikTok because nobody wants to see Rick and I dance.
I don't know. I'm hearing Izzy still pushing on that one. Producer Pierre, do you want to get a hold of you? What's the best way to get a hold of you, Pierre?
Best way to get a hold of me is again on Twitter's at Wired Canuck for pretty much the same reason as Joey why I will never touch TikTok. I'm a boomer. Or on our Discord server, aka.ms/ITOpstalk-Discord.
And if you want to get a hold of me for some reason, you can get a hold of me on Twitter at Wireless Life. Joey, thank you very much again for being on AzUpdate today. That's hard for me to say. If anybody has any questions or they want to suggest news items, please feel free to reach out to the team. We're happy to incorporate those into our show. Thank you to all of our chat room participants. I was going to say contestants, participants in the chat room. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
Ciao, guys.